Thank you all. First of all, thank you to LaShawn for having me here tonight. Really excited to talk a little bit about the mobile market. Just as an introduction, my name is Melinda. I work for Giant Eagle. I have been with the company in community relations for 11 years. Most recently, I am working on leading our food security and food access efforts. And one of the big efforts is our mobile market. So I am going to share my screen here. Can everybody see that one? Okay, great.
Yes.
So I don't know how much people do or don't know about the mobile market. So I just want to share a little bit about it to level set. The mobile market was launched, I'll back up just a little bit. It was officially launched with Giant Eagle a year ago. So in January, we started with 5 stops and we launched in Manchester specifically back in September. We are operating, it is literally a grocery store on wheels if you have not seen it. We are operating Sundays from 2 to 4 and it is located at 1305 Allegheny Avenue, so right outside Bidwell Apartments. We started out with 250 products on the mobile market. We are now up to 550 and growing. So very excited about that. Offering everything from center store, groceries, dry goods, fresh produce, dairy. There are some HBC items on there, toothpaste, deodorants, things like that. There is meat and there is frozen. So there's pretty much a mix of everything on there and growing. So we're really excited about that. What I really want to talk about today and spend a couple of minutes on are sort of the recent developments and work that we are doing. So just about a month ago, one of the big things is we now accept WIC. So I am beyond excited about that. So we're helping to spread the word. Please, I'm going to ask everybody here to kind of help spread that good news. The other thing is we are doing, and I'll call it always on promotion, where produce is half price. So we started with everything being half price produce. I think when we launched, that promotion was going on, and that is indefinite. So please stop by. And as we move forward, we are working on coming up with some quarterly promotions. So right now we just started half price on salty snacks, and you will start to see things get rotated through. I can't tell you what is coming down the pike exactly next, but we're starting to think about what's going to come into summer, into fall, into winter again. So we're going to have some promotions that are going to rotate through, but half price will always be on for produce. So moving just a little bit to kind of where we have talked to LaShawn about the goals for us. We are hoping to have 25 customers per stop. Right now we are averaging, I will say averaging about 20, although thanks to LaShawn for a lot of the promotional efforts and talk about over the last couple of weeks, those numbers are probably bumped up just a little bit. Was just a few weeks ago that we had 34 customers. Really excited about that number. Thank you so much. That is actually the best day that we have had at any stop since we've started the mobile market at any location. We're in 8 different communities, so everyone was really excited. So thank you for all of the support. What I'm going to ask today is just support from the community in continuing to spread the word. As we go out and about, one of the things that we hear most frequently, quite candidly, is people don't know about it, or people don't know what it is, or understand exactly, how it works, how it operates. So first of all, please stop by. I think that is a huge piece of it. It's one thing to talk about it and explain it, but to see it is a very different thing. So encouraging everybody to stop by. I also share on a regular basis with LaShawn social media posts, flyers. So please help me to share that on your social media, in your newsletters, church bulletins, word of mouth. That is incredibly helpful in helping this to grow. We're also talking about doing some door hangers. So you may see those soon. We have some of those priced out, working on some printing. If anybody would be interested in volunteering to help canvass neighborhoods, that's something that we are also starting to fold into the plans. So if anybody is interested, looking for volunteers. Please also tell us about any community events that are upcoming. So if there are community days, especially as we move into spring and into summer and it gets nicer, happy to be there either with the truck itself, or if there's an opportunity for us to table, to bring flyers, to bring coupons, we have a small group that can go out and engage with the community. And then last but not least, if you are with a group or organization, if you are interested in getting information and the social media copy and some of the flyers, we're working on building up a more robust list of contacts so we can share that out. Any questions?
I know, Melinda, that I can share that a number of people have shared with us how appreciative they've been that the mobile market is there. We're a food desert, nowhere to get food in the neighborhood. There are a few food banks and some food distribution that happens, but everybody talks about wanting a grocery store, and we don't have one. But here is a question in the chat, and it says, what is the best way to contact you? Jasmine, are you referring to the best way to contact Melinda? And Melinda, if you want to give a contact, that's great. We can maybe put it in the chat too.
Yeah, so it's up there on the screen. If you can put that in chat, that would be fantastic. Quite honestly, I don't know once the meeting is over if there's a wrap-up email or anything that goes out, or if it's just best through chat. If you want to jot down my contact name.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah. Okay. That looks like right now the only question. And I am sending that over to you, Jasmine.
And I am best through email. I'm pretty responsive on email, so that's usually the quickest way to get me.
And my guess is there may be an opportunity to have the Giant Eagle Mobile Market somewhere else in the community, maybe for an event or something like that.
Yes, please share any planned events or dates. If we can't get the mobile market there itself, we will try to come out with a table with coupons, with information. We do have to work within the structure of sort of what the current calendar is. So one thing I am mindful of, it's in 7 other communities, so I don't like to pull it out of another community that relies on it. I don't think that is fair. Try to be mindful of them. But if we do have the capacity, we'll bring the truck, and if not, we will absolutely take a team out to answer questions and talk to folks and pass out coupons and all of that good stuff.
Fantastic. There is one more question, and it says, this is from Emily. Is it card transactions only? I'm believing that may be debit cards only, and maybe you can share all of the payment methods that you take.
Yeah, so we take credit, debit, SNAP, WIC now, check, gift cards. The only thing we don't take right now is cash, although we have a lot of internal conversations about how we can make that happen. So stay tuned on that one.
Okay, fantastic. Thus far, it looks like those are the only questions. We've got the best way to contact you, and we answered how you can have payment on the mobile market. We appreciate you, Melinda. Thank you so much for you and your team that bring food resources to the neighborhood. You have a great rest of your evening. Hang around for the rest. Okay, so next up here this evening, we have Riverlife. And we have Gavin and Maria who will be sharing a presentation for us here this evening. Hi there.
Hi, LaShawn, and thank you. And thanks everybody for joining us. Maria, do you want to get the screen up since we're going through this? I'm going to try to be really brief and just give some introductions for those of you who don't know us. We're Riverlife. We work on the riverfronts, trails, and open space around the city of Pittsburgh, particularly in what we call the Loop. And you can go right ahead there, Maria. We're focused on the area from the West End Bridge, which is most relevant to this conversation, all the way up to 31st Street on the Allegheny and to the Hot Metal Bridge on the Monongahela. So if you want to go one more. Here's a sort of map of our service area. And a couple of years ago, we did a lot of outreach, including to Manchester, about the sort of overall system. We did also a lot of studying of that system and found that there were some areas that were pretty nice, right? Point State Park, North Shore, others that are doing well. And then some other areas that are really lacking in amenities, in connectivity, in maintenance. And so highlighted here, and I'm sure you all know, the West End Bridge, what we're calling West End Bridge Gap, is really one of those areas that's most in need of improvement. And we've begun to do the work to get to a place of connecting this to the broader system and bringing some additional amenities to both sides of West End Bridge. So if you can go ahead, Maria. Right now, obviously, it's not super easy, nor is it very fun to get up onto the bridge from both sides. When you do, though, it's a really amazing view. It's an incredible amenity that could be better utilized on this side of the city. And so one more. This is the Manchester side. Underneath here, you notice the Cardello parking lot, which serves a purpose, but isn't a particularly exciting place to come visit. And on the other side here is the West End, which is an even worse condition, right? So we're thinking about those spaces, and go ahead. We're also thinking about how, if we were to connect those trails, the riverfront trails that do exist, up to the bridge and across, there's also opportunity to connect into larger trail systems. So you can see here that gap and these regional trails that we'd like to be able to connect to. And so not only is this a really important connection, we think, for Manchester and the neighborhood to get to the river, but it's also a really important connection for everybody in the region to be able to get from the Gap Trail over to the Montour Trail up to what they're calling the Great American Rail Trail, which would go all the way to Seattle at some point. And so this is a sort of critical gap in our broader system, but also one I think that directly affects the neighborhood here. One more slide. We're also mindful that there's a whole lot of other things going on in this area, and we're trying to tie into that work. We meet regularly with LaShawn and other partners to make sure we're coordinating. And one of the things we're really excited about is the Reconnecting Communities grant that I'm sure LaShawn has talked about, but really thinking about how we can turn 65 into an opportunity instead of an impediment to getting people to the river. Alcosan's doing their work, and there's opportunity to think about what those sites look like after they dig their big tunnel. The Esplanade is trying to invest lots of money in the Chateau side of 65, and we want to make sure that feels like it's part of the neighborhood as well as it is. And so we're trying to be mindful of all these things, and our piece of it so far has been to really study how we connect to the bridge and across the bridge to better link people to and over the river. So Maria's going to talk a little bit about the West End side, and then we'll dig into the Manchester side of what we've been doing and what's to come.
Yeah, so starting with the West End, this is the downtown West End, the West End Bridge here. Starting to the east, actually, the Alcosan site right here, we have a memorandum of understanding with them to sort of create a park space at some point after they're done with their project. This site is directly adjacent to a tunnel that takes you under the railroad tracks and gives direct access to the river. There are two private properties right now on either side of the bridge that could possibly be developed in the future if right now the current owner is not interested, but it's something that we're continually following up on. One of the most exciting things about the West End is the Sawmill Run. It's one of the only runs in the city that's daylighted, and it connects directly into the Ohio. On either side of that run, as you come from downtown towards the river, there are significant public property that's really unutilized, that we are thinking about how we can sort of make them assets for the community. One of the most important things, though, is this former railroad tunnel, which connects from downtown underneath the railroad tracks and can potentially get pedestrians and bikers out of the circle here and give a dedicated route across West Carson Street to the riverside and to the bridge. So these are some photographs. This is looking at the Alcosan site, sort of what it looked like a few months ago. I think they've been doing a bunch of cleanup. The view towards the river, that underpass that takes you under the lower railroad track. And then the view right adjacent to the Sawmill Run, looking towards the river and back up at the bridge. And Sawmill Run is just this beautiful body of water with these arched overpasses, basically. And it's accessible by boat. It's accessible by motorboat, by canoe, kayak, from the river up into essentially up to this point. There are connections from downtown. This is a trail that was constructed that takes you from downtown on this side of the run, right adjacent to the run, and connects back to sort of pedestrian walks headed towards the river. And this is the side of the run. There's an existing ramp that could be used for kayak launch, for example, making the run much more of an amenity for the community. And this is that the railroad track, that runs, the underpass that goes under the railroad track, this tunnel, that we're thinking would be a perfect way to bring pedestrians and bikes across West Carson. So this is where it daylights above West Carson Street, and we're thinking that we can ramp across, bring people down to river level and also back to the bridge. And we have some graphics later on that we'll talk about. So on the Manchester Chateau side, the property that's owned by Alcosan, this building is going to be coming down, and it's adjacent to several publicly owned properties. That really is what we're going to be concentrating on today, and sort of thinking about what we can do in those spaces. Gavin talked about the Esplanade development, which is happening up here and is going to be bringing a lot of energy to this side of the highway. The planned Get-Go is going in here. And then there's also this publicly owned green space on the Manchester side of the highway. So again, some photographs looking under the highway. I think that's towards the river, I believe. Looking back towards the bridge, and we're going to see we're going to talk about this facade in a minute, and connections that we can make back to the community from the bridge. And then this expanse of asphalt underneath the highway and the bridge. What can we do with that? Under the bridge, again, there's actually a trail here. This is the trail. How do we connect? How do we connect from the bridge to the existing trail? More views underneath the bridge. What can this space be? Connections back to the community. There's sort of what we call an esplanade level that connects, that has an accessible connection Image number 5 is looking back towards Manchester from that level. But this is really the route that you can take to get from Manchester to the bridge. And then this image number 1 is where the gecko is going to be going in, and there is a walkway. Image number 3 shows that walkway around. Image number 2 is looking at this public space, this public green space right here, and thinking about what we can do with that. There is a path that runs through and back into the Manchester community. So our project goals for both sides, for the entire West End Bridge, West End, Manchester, Chateau communities, to create connections across that bridge and also create destinations within the communities. So in order to connect, this slide's a little confusing, but in order to create connections in the West End, we talked about creating a pedestrian and bike path that brings you through that railroad tunnel, and then creating a switchback on this side of West Carson Street that will bring you both down to the river level, but also up to the bridge. So this would be an accessible route coming across the bridge into the West End. An additional thing that we're thinking about is a connection from the bridge around to the existing crosswalk through in the West End Circle, but also connecting to another switchback here on public property that would take you down to the trail level and additionally down to this access to the water. So these are examples of switchbacks here in the city. This is the Mon Wharf. This is leading to, what's the name of the island? I'm blanking on it, Gavin.
Washington's Landing.
Washington's Landing, thank you. So really rough sketch of our thoughts for getting across West Carson. This is that daylighted, the exit from the pedestrian, the railroad tunnel, ramping across West Carson, and then having a switch back down to river level and an additional connection to the bridge. On this side, the eastern side of the bridge, ramping, creating a new connection, a new pedestrian walk that edges West Carson, and then having a switch back down to this park level and additionally to the entrance to the riverfront property there. So this is what it would look like from that lower level on West Carson. So this is really just sort of an overlook talking about the locations of the ramps and why they are where they are. So this switchback location is here based on, coming through that tunnel, and also where we think we can ramp across West Carson. We need a certain elevation to get across legally. So this switchback would be located sort of this far west. Another switchback located here is between private property and public property. That's at an Alcosan property. It is on public property. And then this location up here on the Manchester side is located, it's adjacent to the trail, and it really, we've done some sort of engineering studies that show that this is sort of the ideal location to tie into the bridge. And it ties back into existing infrastructure that allows for maximum accessibility, essentially. So what's happening on the bridge? This is a existing photograph. We really are hoping to expand the walkways on both sides of the bridge, creating a much safer and much more pleasant route across. Again, an existing look at the piers on the bridge. We're hoping to create overlooks that run on the outside of the pier, basically places for people to stop, take in the view. But also we're trying to consider how to celebrate this bridge. It's a beautiful structure. It's hard to know that when you're on it sometimes, but it really is an asset to the city. So how do we celebrate it? Do we light it? Is there art incorporated into this expansion? So now we're on the Manchester Chateau side. So again, we're coming across the bridge. And we talked about the switch back to the ground here, which connects to the Riverfront Trail, but also can connect back to the existing infrastructure on there's the Esplanade level here that can take you in an accessible route back into the Chateau Manchester neighborhoods. And this is a site that we really wanted to start thinking creatively about tonight. So here's the switchback, here's coming across the bridge, the switchback coming down to the trail. But this is a huge site that when Alcosan is done, will be basically empty. So what can we do there to create a destination for Manchester and Chateau? So just some quick ideas that we're thinking. We're not proposing any of this, but we really want to start getting feedback from the community about what you would like to see happening here. So is it flexible space for community events, food trucks and farmers market? Is it a place where movies get shown? Is it a place, is there a temporary stage for music? Is there a permanent stage for music? Are there places to play? Are there places to rest? Is it green space? Is there planting down there? Are there places to cook? This is a public pizza oven. Are there, barbecue facilities? Are there any permanent amenities? Does someone want to set up a coffee shop down there? Or is there a place to rent bikes or rent kayaks or rent something? Are there picnic pavilions? Whoops. Are there seasonal amenities? This is a roller skating rink that gets installed every summer in Philadelphia. Is there a place to cool off? Are there places to ice skate? This is a park in Minnesota, I want to say, that during the summer, it's green space and there are tables and chairs, and during the winter, you can ice skate on it. Same with this on the right. This is an amphitheater with, I believe, like mist during the warmer months, and during the winter it's flooded and it freezes, and it's a place for ice skating. So, I mean, this is a very quick overview of sort of what we're trying to accomplish, and we're hoping that we can come back and, really have a conversation with the community, but we're opening this up for questions from anyone. If you would like to send feedback immediately, you can email either myself, Maria, or Gavin at our emails here at riverlifepgh.org. And if there are any questions, we're happy to take those now.
So Gavin, Maria, thank you so much for presenting this evening. I'd like to ask and invite you over the upcoming months with the RCP, the Reconnecting Communities Program Grant, with some of the work that Elite is going to be doing around community surveys, group community meetings, and one-on-ones where need be, as well as WSP. And there are a couple more presentations after you, so people will be hearing this coming up. We'll also be doing some oral histories. I think that there is an opportunity to have a couple events now that the weather is breaking and getting a little bit nicer. Definitely feel free. Are there any questions? Does anyone want to type a question into the question box? If not, this is not the last time that we'll be able to engage, but this will be the end of Maria and Gavin's presentation here tonight. So if there aren't any questions for them this evening, then we'll connect with them in the upcoming months. Any questions out there? And I have all the questions coming in the chat. Maria did send her email contact. Gavin's email contact is in there as well. Thank you. Love it all. Okay, there was one comment. Very
I'll just say briefly that we do also have funding from the county to continue the design of those ramps. So we expect to get those to a pretty high level of design. So those are ones where, like, if you have thoughts about placement, et cetera, get those to us sooner than later. We'll be spending a lot of time engaging with the community on the open space in the coming months and years.
Before you would zip off on me there, Maria, might you be able to pull up your map? There is a question here. Where exactly is the get-go? And the get-go has been, I don't have a map of that readily available, and since you do, if you can share, you're not going to be able to see my mouse. Would you be able to circle over? That's where the get-go is proposed. That has come before the community a couple times and will be back again probably in May for a community meeting as well. We'll have Millcraft and the Esplanade back in May, but that's where the proposed site for the get-go is. That was one of the questions. Okay, here's another question. How will it be decided what gets done with the open spaces? And I believe, and I don't want to answer this for you, but they have stated this evening that they want to continue to engage with the community and had been sharing photos of proposed or potential opportunities in those open spaces. So there's no definitive, there are just some ideas out there. Again, in the upcoming months, we will be engaging with a number of entities, and a number of those entities include Riverlife, where we will be talking in a little more depth in terms of what we'd like to see there. Here's another question that says, how receptive has the casino and professional sports teams been to the proposed development? I will not pretend to answer that for anyone.
Yeah, we have regular casinos meetings with the casino and the sports teams. They have been very open to it. What they're not open to, not surprisingly, is restriction of the traffic lanes on West End Bridge, which was an early idea to try and save some money. They don't like that, but they do like the idea of better pedestrian connections and more amenities near their spaces as well, and have said even that there's a large open lot next to the casino that there could be some potential opportunity there as well to help sort of improve the trail experience and the experience near the bridge. So far so good.
So far, there's been no encroachment on things that they value, and there's a benefit to the community. So it sounds like things are going well. Fair enough. There don't seem to be any additional questions, and I'll just say this in closing. Manchester really needs that Great Wall, something different done with the Great Wall, right? That's why we have the RCP planning study that's in progress. But we really appreciate Riverlife going after funds to make the pedestrian experience in and out of Manchester and Chateau very different than what it is, because since 1965, the installation of Route 65, this community has been cut off from so much and deserves to have that connectivity. And so for that, I will say thank you, because there's a lot of heavy lifting that the community can't do on its own. And for partners that are caring about what is around us, we appreciate that. So thank you very much, and thank you for presenting this evening. Okay, wait, it might be one other question for you. Oh, no, it's not. So wait 1 second. How will the bridge development affect traffic? Yes, that is for you.
Yeah, just briefly, we expect it would only improve things because it's providing more connectivity options. We're not restricting any traffic lanes whatsoever. So it would just be adding better pedestrian connectivity for walkers, bikes, etc.
All right, thank you so very much. You have a great evening. Feel free to stay, but we're going to move on now to the next agenda item, and I don't want to miss anyone's question because I know that they're all important. This one is on the get-go. We did show that already. I'll have to make sure that I get something out to be able to show that location. Next item up is Stephanie Joy with the Department of City Planning, who has already put her contact information in the chat and will be sharing some updates with us this evening. Stephanie?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Stephanie Joy, your neighborhood planner. And I had the pleasure of working with this community on the neighborhood plan that started in 2017 and was adopted in 2019. LaShawn invited me here this evening to remind the community that a lot of projects are happening in the neighborhood and they are in furtherance of implementing that plan, and sometimes that connection isn't always made. So there's going to be a couple of projects tonight that are highlighted to illustrate that work. Those projects are in furtherance of that. Sorry, technical difficulty there. And I'm going to share this presentation with LaShawn to put out to the community, but there are links to all the plans and contacts that you'll hear from tonight. And so some of the key priorities, just high level of what we heard from this community during that process, was ensure housing affordability, enhance connections to other city neighborhoods, and provide economic opportunity and stability. And so the plan is divided into 4 chapters: community development, mobility, and infrastructure. And there are 25 goals across those 4 chapters. So tonight, what I'm going to do is highlight a few of those goals and then talk about projects that have gone towards implementing those goals or that are proposed to implement those goals. So the community chapter focuses on existing residents, employees, and visitors and how to better serve them. And so some of the goals are related to housing. Safe, quality, affordable housing is a top priority of this plan. And then housing should enable those at different stages of life and with differing abilities to be a part of the neighborhood, and increasing access to healthy food, of which you already heard a project go towards. And so with that, we have Crystal and Natasha from the Pittsburgh Scholar House, and they're going to present a project that goes towards meeting these goals.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Gonzalez. I am the Family Advocacy Manager at Pittsburgh Scholar House. I have my colleague Natasha Toll with me as well today. She is our Program Associate and Special Assistant to our CEO, Dr. Walker. Next slide, please. So for those of you who do not know, this is our CEO, Dr. Diamante Walker. She has been the main driver and the architect of our programming model, and she's been primarily focused on just empowering individuals within our community and transforming communities beyond just conventional metrics. She was also just recently selected as one of the 35 nationwide leaders for the Rising President's Fellowship for Community College Excellence by the Aspen Institute College Excellence Program. Next slide, please. So who are we? We were established in the spring of last year, and we are an affiliate of the National Family Scholar House model based in Louisville, Kentucky. We are a social impact nonprofit that is dedicated to building a scholastic community of highly motivated single parents that are interested in earning 2- and 4-year degrees to disrupt the poverty cycle. This is done through our 2-generational approach that's designed to create empowered partnerships with highly motivated single parents who are facing economic insecurity as they seek increased level of post-secondary educational attainment. social capital cultivation, health equity, economic mobility, and social well-being. So by generating a legacy of family well-being that passes from one generation to the next, the two-gen approach that we use helps communities like Manchester and Pittsburgh as a whole just become stronger and more vibrant socially and economically. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? The goal is to take a holistic approach to economic prosperity through the lens of higher education degree attainment and workforce development. We want to utilize the two-gen strategy to build up our scholars in as many ways as possible so that they develop the skills to become leaders of not only their families, but their communities as well. Next slide, please. So this is our anticipated economic mobility shift kind of model. Families come to us at that first step, which from what we've seen thus far in working with our scholars is economic insecurity in some capacity, meaning that their basic needs are barely being met. There's an undisrupted generational poverty loop, which then typically leads to various poor health outcomes for these individuals. We enter at that step to employ socioeconomic interventions, such as building financial literacy skills to propel our families forward. This then creates a level of economic stability and eventually economic autonomy, which then creates better outcomes for the family as a whole. Next slide, please. You will often hear us say at Pittsburgh Scholar House that we hand our scholars the keys to degrees. Our main priority is to take highly motivated, goal-oriented parenting scholars and prepare them for excellence just across the board. So we released our initial application for our first cohort in October of last year, and the response we received was just unbelievable. We anticipated probably about 40 to 50 applications by our deadline in December, and we received over 230 applications just weeks after the application went live. We currently have an active community of over 200 prospective parenting students who are at various different stages of their higher education or workforce development journey. And they are planning to enroll or graduate from a degree program within the next 1 to 2 years. Next slide, please. So this is all done through our flagship Wayfinders program. The intention with our Wayfinders program was to build a scholastic community for these parenting scholars who may not have these support systems or college campuses where they as a parenting student feel welcomed and supported as they move towards their goals. So here you'll see a screenshot from a piece that was done on Pittsburgh Scholar House by Public Source, which showcased one of our very first scholars in the Wayfinders cohort with her daughter. I'm actually personally currently working with this individual as she works towards registering for classes this semester. So it's kind of like a proud mom moment for me too. So our Wayfinders program, like I said, is our flagship program that each cohort member who is accepted will make their way through. Upon acceptance, each scholar is placed into a specific track that is most aligned with their expressed goals. We developed this program to meet each of our scholars wherever they are at with their higher education or career journey. And our goal is always degree attainment as a means to career growth. However, we wanted to ensure that we were really meeting people where they were and listening to what their goals were and not imposing anything on them. So we were able to develop 4 different pathways that fit the needs for all of our applicants. So I'm going to pass this off to my colleague, Natasha, to explain a little bit more about each pathway and what each pathway looks like.
Thanks, Crystal, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. As Crystal alluded to, these are the 4 pathways that she was talking about in our flagship Wayfinders program. Enroll you, re-enroll you. Candidates in this bucket have not exactly, they've either never been to college before or they've had some college experience and, you know, for life experience reasons, they weren't able to go all the distance to complete their goal attainment or degree attainment goals. So we place them in those buckets to help them either do a college readiness course with us for about 6 months, or we spend 6 months with them trying to navigate any of their barriers by using an academic success plan and a goal mapping strategy to get them back into college. The second or third pathway, if you will, is the Retain You pathway. This is for candidates that are already enrolled in a degree program, and they will receive motivational coaching from us, academic support, and connections to childcare and transportation resources and other assistance to help champion their retention and degree completion. Our last pathway, known as Upskill U pathway, are for those that may not be interested in college right now. However, they're in the workforce and they would like to do some things that would help upskill themselves, if you will, to gain a better paying job or a new workforce experience altogether. Next slide, please, Stephanie. So in this particular slide, you'll see that we have from engagement to building scholastic community for parenting scholars. Our goal is to listen to them first and then respond to their needs. We use asset framing language. We create an immediate sense of accomplishment, and we hold the parenting scholar in high esteem. That thus fosters a sense of connection within a supportive community. Next slide, please. We're big on celebration, small or, whatever step you take, we want to celebrate that along the way. It only enhances your time with the Pittsburgh Scholar House and in life, again, with the community feel. So we really look for the quick wins to create an immediate simple sense of accomplishment. I'm sorry, I'm really excited. So I get tongue twisted when I talk about Pittsburgh Scholar House. We want to make sure that everything that they do, that they find value in it. We don't want to waste the parenting scholars' time. As you know, anybody doesn't want their time wasted. So what better way to make sure we're staying on track by celebrating those small wins that leads to the larger goal of degree attainment, of course. Next slide, please. Here is a little bit of a map of our 360 degrees of partnership. As you can see, we are aligned actually with PECHE, which is the Pennsylvania Council on Higher Education. We are currently actually being incubated by them at the moment, which gives us a pretty good outlook on the other 11 colleges in the area. Of course, CCAC being one of those main partners for us, as they are very much near the Manchester area, which is where we are housed, by the way. We actually share space with the MCC. Very proud place to be. I love our office. There are other partners listed here. Another notable partner is Thrive 18. Project Destiny are where we like to send our scholars when they need support. Next slide, please, Stephanie. We also do a lot of engagement and outreach, which is what my role consists of. Not only do I like to put on events for our parenting scholars, but I like to stay engaged with the community as well. So we have a community called PSH Connect, where those people are not exactly accepted into our Wayfinders cohort. However, when we go to release our next application for second cohort, those are the parenting scholars that we're going to be seeking first. Those that maybe show up to a community event in the area, they interact with us via our websites and other activities that we put on. Again, when we release that application, those are the names that we will pull from. Next slide, please. And just to note, as I said before, since this is in my wheelhouse of engaging the community, we are actually taking our cohort to Moonshot Museum this Friday. Very excited because we've never been in the space before. We have about 45 of us that are going to trek down there between the hours of 12 and 5 p.m. It's a family affair, so the little ones will be there as well, and we're going to get to see what Moonshot is all about. So just wanted to share that, that we're utilizing our community partners. Next slide, please. As I alluded to, our cohort will run from now until November 2023. Our second application will be released in October of 2023. Again, families that are active within our PSH community have a greater chance of acceptance into our cohort, as they have been, top of mind for us, and they already are kind of in the loop with what we do at the Pittsburgh Scholar House. Next slide, please. So if you would like to stay connected with us, here is where you can find us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We also have our own website at pittsburghscholarhouse.org, and we have our CEO's email address there as well in case you would like to get contact with her. I also did put our Gmail email in the chat. If you would like to ask general questions, that is our general question mailbox. Next slide, please. I think the next slide is just if you have some questions. It's just our Q&A slide. So this actually concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Please feel free to follow us on any of those platforms. And if you would like to connect, please use our email address that I've dropped in the chat.
Thank you, ladies, for sharing such a wonderful organization with our community and in our community. I can't say enough about how the Pittsburgh Scholar House will be impacting next generation, and how much that really means to helping communities like ours out and other communities. I mean, this is definitely, I had an opportunity to travel and see the model and see how it works, and it really is a game changer for the lives of all of the people that are participating. So we look forward to continuing to partner. We look forward to developing housing
Yes.
and making sure that we have a place for the Pittsburgh Scholar House participants to live, share, and grow within our community. So are there some questions? I want to be able to open up questions for the Pittsburgh Scholar House. And I know it's a little quick to ask you to type something in the chat, but if there are any questions, please feel free to put them in there. In the meantime, Stephanie Joy, I think we're kind of weaving you in and out of this process so that we can share what this reaches in terms of our neighborhood comprehensive plan and associating that with our goals and how we're achieving that.
Yes. So throughout the plan, Manchester's legacy and historic resources are referenced. So some of the goals are identified here on the screen to document and preserve those resources, and not just the physical structures, but also the people that are a part of the neighborhood. And so my colleague Sarah Quinn applied for and was granted a Keystone Historic Preservation Grant to support civil rights historic research in the neighborhood. And with us tonight is Rob and Janae from the consulting teams, WSP and eHoldings respectively, to share some information about that. So I'm going to hand it off to them now.
Thanks, Stephanie, and thanks, LaShawn, for inviting us today. I'm going to kind of go through the slides. If there are any questions, my colleague Rob with WSP is here to answer them alongside me. Just to kind of give you a quick background, I think these are things most Manchesterians know, but the National Register of Historic Places is the nation's list of significant historic properties and properties worthy of preservation. It's a program run by the National Park Services, and it's managed in each state by the State Historic Preservation Office. There are at least 2 districts in Pittsburgh, one in Lawrenceville, one in Highland Park, and obviously one in Manchester. So I just wanted to kind of give that background. And that context is going to be really important because later on in this presentation, as LaShawn alluded to, we're going to be asking for volunteers to do oral histories of Manchester. So next slide. So just a little bit of background. The National Register does create an opportunity for an excellent planning tool. It provides recognition to historic properties and encourages their preservation. It promotes community and economic development and tourism. And it does provide kind of basic eligibility for funding incentives. There are many places throughout Pittsburgh that have used not only the financial incentives, but also as an opportunity for community and economic development. Next slide. What it does not do, it does not require property owners to maintain their property in any given or specific way. It also doesn't trigger, having that national register does not trigger or require local design review. It does protect, privately owned historic properties. Next slide, please. So Manchester is a national registered historic district. Sorry, I'm getting tongue tied too. It was listed in 1975. And it was listed for architecture. And so something earlier that Stephanie said was, it's recognized as a place of beautiful historic buildings, but there's also a history to the community, a story to be told. And so that's what this project is about. This current project is to recommend an update to that already existing National Register listing. And it's to denote the significance of Manchester in the civil rights movement. Next slide, please. So why are we here today? So my request of the community members today is a call for oral history participants. Our goal for this oral history project is twofold. This oral history will become part of a larger documentation, again, to update the National Historic Registry for Manchester. But what we're responsible for is to identify and interview and kind of preserve some of the history of the community by talking to local residents who lived either during the civil rights movement or Jim Crow era, roughly late 1940s to late 1970s, lived through the urban renewal efforts by the URA and by the city, or their family did, and they're from Manchester, and so they have kind of secondhand stories. Maybe those who had the firsthand accounts are no longer with us, and so kind of carrying that story on. And then our other goal is to kind of document the civil rights activities that were conducted within the boundaries of Manchester and by its residents. So that's another important part of the application. How we'll select people for these oral histories, because at this point in the process, we don't have the opportunity to just take an oral history of everyone who would like to offer us one. Maybe that's a later process. But for this time, we have a very limited resources. And so we are taking recommendations from community leaders and advocates, but we're also asking people to self-select themselves, or maybe even recommend a neighbor or a known community leader that you think would be participatory in this process. If you are interested in participating or interested in nominating someone, the interviews, just to give you an idea, are going to take about 20 minutes. So they won't take very much of your time. Our goal, to the extent possible, is to have those take place at Manchester Citizens Court, so somewhere in the community. If for some reason someone who wants to do an interview but has mobility challenges and that is a challenge for them and they are willing to meet us in another location or welcome us into their home, we'd be happy to do it. Our goal is to make it convenient and accessible. If you do have an interest, you can, speaking of accessibility, you can let us know in two ways. You can place a phone call to Jeanette Williams. She'll take your information and she'll work with you, or she'll walk you through kind of the questionnaire we're doing to kind of understand the oral history that you want to offer as far as this project. But if you want to kind of self-nominate or nominate someone else on your own and you are comfortable, we do have a link in the presentation, and I understand that'll be circulated, where you can kind of complete the form online. And then if you're sitting here now and you just kind of want to go to it, you can scan that QR code and it'll take you directly to the application process. Our goal is to have somewhat of a demographic spread in terms of the interviews. And what I mean by that is we want not only people who've lived through those experiences, but maybe a youth or two whose grandparents have lived through those experiences and what they feel about or know about the history of the community and where it's going forward. And so we just encourage people of all ages and all experiences with your community to reach out to us so that we can try our best to start to document that history. And that's all I have.
This is such an exciting opportunity for Manchesterians. Thank you so much for coming here this evening and sharing, but more importantly, about to roll up your sleeves and get in the trenches with the community in terms of really finding out some beautiful history and community. I am more than sure that there are things in the community in terms of history that some of us don't know about one another. or that we don't know that happened in the community. Especially those that have been here a long time. This is an opportunity to really share, but share in a very meaningful and thoughtful way that gets documented to live well beyond the time that most of us, will be here. I'd like anyone to throw in questions in the Q&A, but I can't say enough about how important this is. Like we heard the Pittsburgh Scholar House sharing about a 2-gen approach to reducing or eradicating or eliminating poverty. Something like this is an opportunity, particularly for a minority community, to really share its story, to share its journey, and to have it in the books that's counted somewhere aside from just us being able to share today. One of the questions in the chat is, how can we support your objective as residents? And this came in a bit, and I think that what has been shared is, self-select, be available to do, a 20-minute interview. The interviews will be taking place here at MCC. There's contact information up here on the slide. I'll also make sure that I type it in here. But that's the way to get in and get involved, be a part of, current history and future history. Another question is, what's the name of that priest who worked here in the 60s with the civil rights? He died last year. The labor's unions gave him a big award. I do believe that you're probably referring to Father O'Malley. And if there are folks that have or want to make a suggestion about who should be reached out to in terms of, some of this history and to do an interview, please send that in and some contact information so that we can get in touch with anybody that may be willing to share. That would be fantastic. It looks like those are the only 2 questions thus far. Oh, wait. Somebody is responding. Yes, Father O'Malley. I can get to his people through the unions, and that may be some good contact and good interviews to do. Okay. Thank you. Fantastic job. Happy to have
you.
And again, just to follow up, reminding everyone, Riverlife, will be connecting with the community. This team will be connecting with the community, an upcoming team that will share. I mean, there's going to be a lot of contact points, a lot of opportunity for people to really get involved and share. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. And I believe, Stephanie Joy, am I kicking it back to you again?
Yeah, just for a few more projects to highlight, but not any additional presentations. So I'm just going to talk about some strategies and goals from 2 more chapters. First, the development chapter, which is about physical change. One of the goals from that was to implement value capture strategies. And what that means is ensuring that new tax that's generated from new development is invested directly back into the community. And so one of the tools that we have in Pennsylvania called Transit Revitalization Investment District. You might remember this. We engaged the community in 2021 during the midst of the pandemic. So we used our Engage platform. But this is a tool that was spurred on by the Esplanade development, but it also looks at other developments in the neighborhood and assesses, what is that potential tax increase and how do we spend that directly into the neighborhood. And so many of the projects that are in the action strategy shown here on the screen is from the neighborhood plan and maybe expanded upon a bit in addition to affordable housing. And so it is a transit investment district. So there has to be a transit component. or support. But this is a really important tool for us to fund things from the plan. And so there are a lot of exciting projects that have started or will be furthered, and there will be many more conversations. And so some of those mobility strategies are really related to safety, connections, and multimodal opportunities. And so diving right into State Route 65 network, Goal 18 is about reconnecting the communities and a new vision. So the plan identifies short-term, midterm, and long-term strategies. So the short-term are related to safety on Beaver and Chateau and the underpass. And then midterm is related to new connections. And then long-term, you know, the actual State Route 65 itself. And so I'm just going to highlight some things that have happened or are in the process. So you're probably all aware of the lane diet that occurred. Safety has improved. And so that is, you know, a win to celebrate. And then a midterm project, if you'll recall, at the earlier stage of the pandemic in 2020, we were awarded an EPA grant, technical assistance actually. And so we looked at the Juniata underpass and have created some conceptual designs. Those will be built upon and furthered in design with the community and hopefully funded through the TRID. And then lastly, for that long-term strategy, you know, a month ago, we were awarded the Reconnecting Communities pilot grant that builds off of this plan. The TRID study and incorporates PRT's next trans study. And so more information will come out, you know, on that and how to engage. And with that, I thank you for your time. And my contact information is in the chat. Always feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie Joy, for bringing all those points forward in full circle. You did a lot of hard work with our community on that neighborhood plan, and we've definitely appreciated that. I don't know if there are any questions as it relates to anything that Stephanie Joy shared, but we do have another consultant, Dee Seegers from Elite, who will be just saying a few words here this evening. Daria, are you? There you go.
I'm on. Good evening, everybody, and hello, Manchester. My name is Dee Seegers, and I am from Elite Medical Consultants. And let me be the first to congratulate you all on your neighborhood plan and what you guys have been able to achieve this far. My team specifically has been brought on to work with you in relationship to your Reconnecting Communities program grant. And it's also known as the RCP grant. I hope that we gain a meaningful window into the thoughts and feelings of the community related to connectivity to the riverfront. But just as importantly, we want to know how you relate to your community in terms of your needs, your wants, and your expectations. From this process over the next year, we hope to inform the planning process to execute on the needs that are identified. Tonight, I'm simply introducing myself, and I'm here to let you know that me and my team will be on the ground in the community doing some community surveys. We'll have on MCC lanyards that will allow you to easily recognize us and let you know that we are safe. There will be small group sessions, both in person and via Zoom, during various hours and days. This will be done to capture as many residents as possible, and this will also be taking place over the next year. We realize that this is a community process, and understanding the community's position is not just important, it's crucial. My team and I are looking forward to connecting with each of you. What a wonderful journey your community is embarking on, and we are excited to be a part of such an amazing, meaningful project. Thanks, guys, and have a good night.
Thank you, Dee Seegers. Community, as you can hear, we are going to have a lot of consultants in the neighborhood really looking to engage, and partners in the neighborhood looking to engage around community wants, community needs. What do we see ourselves as a completed community? Those are the things that we work through in relation to our neighborhood comprehensive plan. And certainly we're making those, time, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we certainly won't be able to complete the community in a day. But this Reconnecting Communities Program grant gives us an opportunity to really face the challenge of the Great Wall of Manchester and see how we can connect to the riverfront, have better ease getting in and out of our community, and opening opportunities to ourselves, such as, stores, grocery, at some point, being able to recognize and realize something as beautiful as a Black Wall Street is right at our fingertips. And we have to get this planning done to really share what it is that the community would like to see. At this time, since we've had most of our people come forth, I would like to open the floor. I know that JD is here for Councilman Lavelle. I know that Representative Abney is here. And I do believe that we may have our ward chairman here that may want to speak as well. So I will open up the floor, going in order, opening for State Representative Ariane Abney first. Representative? Okay, wait a second. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and I think LaShawn might have let me go first because she knows I am currently on daddy daycare duty. And I am getting ready to put the kids to bed. So if you hear either blazing the monster machines in the background or a whole lot of yelling and screaming, just bear with me. But good evening, everybody. As LaShawn mentioned, I'm Ariane Abney, State Representative for the 19th District. Also, my other hat. I'm too loud. Okay. My other hat, I am a Manchester resident, so it's always good to be amongst my neighbors, family and friends. So just really quickly, I'll be brief. Many of you probably know this, but for those who don't know, we have moved our office. The 19th District office is now on the north side, not in Manchester, but it is on the north side over 730 James Street. So that's right off of East Ohio Street. So if anybody knows where James Street Pub used to be, it's literally diagonal to where that is. So I encourage folks to come on out to our office if you have any questions about state-related services or programs or grants that may be available, or anything that we can do to assist you. Come by and meet my staff. You can also call our office. I'll try to drop the phone number in the chat. But for those who are on, it's 412-471-7760. So please come on out. Love to see some of our folks from Manchester and Northside to come on out and engage with our staff. And I'll just also flag that because this Reconnecting Communities grant and Route 65 has been mentioned several times on this call. I'm not sure if I missed it earlier, but there was just recently a press conference last week that both myself and LaShawn participated in with U.S. Senator Bob Casey, U.S. Congresswoman Summer Lee, Mayor Ed Gainey, and County Exec Rich Fitzgerald to announce sort of the investment of this grant. I think it was $1.4 million in federal funds that came to help us do this feasibility study to figure out what we want to do with Route 65. Now, of course, and I'll tell you, like I said, the press conference, this is not the end of the process. This is just sort of the end of the beginning and really a continuation, as SJ mentioned earlier, from our community plan that we started about 4 or 5 years ago. But I just want to just flag that this is one of the, I don't say rare, but this is one of the case examples where you actually see folks in the community talking about the things that they care about and what they want to see change, and government actually saying, hey, we're going to try to do something about it. And so we are, like I said, we're hoping that this is a sort of a good start to figuring out what the best use is for 65. I know I'm committed. This is going to take multi-millions of dollars to be able to actually, once the study is completed, to figure out how to actually do something. So you have my commitment from the state level to make sure PennDOT is involved, our Department of Community Economic Development is involved, and any other department at the state level is involved to ensure that we get the results that the neighborhood wants to see. So that's the other thing. And then I wanted to also mention just a little bit of a heads up of what's happening in Harrisburg, in case you all don't necessarily up in the chat a link to. Sorry, LaShawn, what's wrong?
There for a moment. Sorry. You
Are you
cut off.
lost me? My bad.
You're back in. You're good.
Okay. So I dropped in the chat. Hold on one second. I dropped in the chat my website. I encourage folks to please go there. That is a good way where you can keep updated on the things that I'm doing on a daily and weekly basis. We also have a link to all my social media is on that website. So if you want to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then also we encourage you to sign up for our newsletters. We send weekly newsletters via email, keeping people updated about the stuff that we're doing in Harrisburg. One of the things that I did want to mention and flag is that while I am going on my 1-year anniversary at the end of this month of being in this office, I did get appointed to sit on the Appropriations Committee, which if anybody knows, that is typically sought after as one of the most influential committees because it is the one that directly correlates to our $44.4 billion state budget. And so it gives me a lot of good insight into how we are spending our money at a state level, how we're spending your tax dollars, and figuring out what the best use is for those resources. And so we've been having our budget hearings over the past 2 weeks, going back up next week to Harrisburg to continue those budget hearings for our different state departments. But the other thing that it does help me do, it gives me a little bit more leverage to bring resources back to the community, just being on that committee. And so that's going to be my commitment, not just for Route 65, but I've had conversations with the Scholar House, and I know they're trying to do some development in the near future. And any way that I can be supportive of that and the other things that LaShawn and the folks that want to do development and projects in the community, I'll be fully behind that. And the last thing that I'll mention is I just introduced 3 pieces of legislation in the past couple months. One is to ban assault weapons, future sale of assault weapons in Pennsylvania. The other one is around small business development. It's a Small Business Incubator Act, which will provide additional $20 million for small businesses to cover their startup costs in the form of grants and/or loans. We actually have pretty good traction on that, so we might be able to pass that now that we have a majority in the House. We have a Democratic majority, so we're able to kind of move some of our bills and our legislation that we want to do. And the third piece of legislation that I introduced is a criminal justice data collection bill that essentially tracks individuals' experiences every time they interact with our criminal justice system, but when they get arrested, when they interact with the courts, and when they interact with the jails, so we can have better data to ensure that our policies and procedures around criminal justice is applied equitably across our Commonwealth and our 67 counties. And so those are things that you can find in our weekly email blast that we send out. You can find by going on our social media and or going to that link that I sent a little bit earlier. But I think that's all the announcements that I have for right now. But if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. And you can always reach out to me beyond this meeting as well. And thanks, LaShawn, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative Abney, for sharing your evening with us. I know that that's a challenge to do, especially when you have children. Thank them for allowing us to borrow you for, half their evening. Kudos to you, on the floor for making sure that our community is well represented. Thank you for being a Manchesterian. We appreciate you. I won't have any questions for him since he does have to put his kids to bed. I do believe that Councilman Lavelle's office is represented and our Democratic Committee Board Chairman is also present. Mr. Williams, are you going to say a few words?
Mr. Williams is, which one specifically? Oh, I am.
Hey,
How
which
you
one?
doing? JD, are you talking or am I? Who am I?
Go ahead, you got it.
All right. How are you doing, all? Good evening, all. Please bear with me. I'm actually driving back from Ohio. So I pulled over, the sun hit me and I pulled over in the car. But it's good to have us all together. I'm thankful that we have the ball rolling now. I'm also very, very thankful of the liaison and commitment we have for the community, as well as the elected officials, as well as MCC. I look forward to working with you to the Chateau Manchester plan as we can get this thing rolling again and reunite the community commercially as well as civically. And again, I'm on the road driving now. I pulled over so I can introduce myself and make my presence known. However, I'm going to take off again. I'm going to be listening. And so you guys, please finish on with the continuation of the meeting. If anyone needs to reach me, I'm accessible throughout the community. JD is on here right now, my nephew. I'm sure he can speak for me and give you anyone an address or location or number to find me. However, though, I look forward to working with you guys in the future. And I'm going to take off now, get home. And but I'm here. I'll be listening for the rest of the Zoom meeting, though. But thanks for having me, LaShawn, Ariane, JD, and all the others on. So hit me up. I'm around. But I'm going to be listening for the rest of the Zoom meeting, though. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and I'll call you Bruce Williams because we have two Mr. Williams on the line.
Okay.
Thank you for making it. Please continue to be on the road safely, but appreciate you making this a priority to participate here as well.
Absolutely. I thank you guys for allowing me to be a part of this.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to do it without you. So, Mr. JD Williams, do you have a few things from the councilman's office to share?
Yeah, so no immediate updates, but more so just making sure that we keep ourselves available as a resource to the community. I'm the one that largely handles a lot of the constituent issues, 311 issues, a lot of city issues we had. So just wanted to make sure that everybody continued to use our office as a resource to any city issues they may have. I walk around Manchester most days. Like if you're around, you'll probably see me out walking. And please feel free to flag me down if you ever see me out walking and have any city issues. But even in my travels, I don't catch everything that's going on. I can't catch every pothole or every outlight or what have you. So please, if you do have these potholes, if you do have your street lights out, your an adjacent property with abandoned overgrown property, pretty much any city issue, please make sure to let us know, let our office know, let 311 know, because the more it's the squeaky wheel is going to get the oil. We very often, like I said, I go through 311, and for our district, I see the Hill District largely represented. People in the Hill put their complaints in. Downtown definitely put their complaints in. But I know us severely underrepresented as far as city. And I'm done to using the word complaints because I don't want people to hear that and think, oh, I don't want to be a complainer, I don't want to be a nag. No, this is where your tax dollars are going. So please complain, please nag, please understand that the squeaky wheel is going to get the oil to make our community look better. It doesn't look better without, because we can't it's city infrastructure, city eyes, be as they may. We're not going to catch everything without citizens putting their requests in to get some stuff improved. So please use our office. Our number is 412-255-2134. If you see me, like I said, if you see me out walking, I'm usually walking between here and the other Dave's Barbershop up on Brighton Place. So often walking, please flag me down, stop me. If you have anything personal now that you, city stuff that you want to get in, so you can put it in the chat. I'll make sure I get in the 311. The other thing we want to make sure that we start looking at is, I'm starting to notice on the neighborhood. I mean, over the past couple of years, a lot of people have, for their sidewalks, the trees that were put in the sidewalks, people have started to get those taken out and get those derooted. But though the city, so that tree itself, if it's on your property, it is in fact your responsibility. However, if you do get that, if the roots start tearing up sidewalks and it does start to become a damaging thing, the URA does have a program in place where they can mitigate some of the costs. They won't take all of the costs, but if you do decide to go about doing that, the URA will get some of that in. So if you want more information on that program, please email my coworker. That's daniel.wood@pittsburghpa.gov. Or you could just call into the office again, send number 255-2134. But like, take a picture if you could, please, of whatever these of the trees and sidewalks and stuff, because we're starting to notice Manchester is a really concentrated area for them. And I want to make sure that they see the scope of what's going on, so we can get our neighborhood improved, our sidewalks improved, and, you know, better outlook for the community.
Well, thank you, Mr. Williams, for sharing that in community. We definitely know where we can reach out. It looks like there are a number of questions, but I'm going to summarize 3 of the 4 that are here. There was a request to discuss the Old St. Joe's Church on this evening's agenda. That will not be on the agenda. MCC is working directly with the St. Joe's Church, and there will be updates in future meetings, most likely in our May community meeting. The request for that was not put on by the pastor, but again, MCC is working with St. Joe's, and we will give some updates in a future community meeting. The next question here is there is a developing sinkhole at the intersection of Sheffield Street and Manhattan. Maybe we are just going to tell you about that, and then maybe there's something that you can write that down and address it. The sinkhole, JD?
Oh, yeah, like it's out. So that's actually probably 3 blocks from me. Unless somebody has a picture of that, I'll probably slide around tonight and see if I can get one. But so you said Sheffield, Manhattan. If you can give me like,
Is there a possibility that either send an email photo to MCC or to the councilman's office? If you send it to MCC, all we're going to be able to do is send it over to Mr. Williams.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a couple blocks from. I'll probably go check it out tonight. But
Okay.
yeah, I just, if somebody could let me know like more specifically like what side of the intersection it's on, so I can catch it. That'll be easy. I'll put that thing through tonight. That'll be easy.
Fantastic. So there is one more comment about the church, and I've already addressed that. Another question that says, can he please, we are trying hard to plant appropriate trees because we need tree canopy. Okay. Another question is that, or comment, that's great to hear.
So this is only about the trees that are in like the sidewalks. This is about where trees, great, but this is more to the side, the trees that are kind of like just along people's houses in front, like on the streets, on the sidewalks that are, you know, they've been there for 15 plus years now, and now these roots are growing out. And they're doing a number, especially with how we have a lot of our brick sidewalks, they're doing a number on a lot of the sidewalks. And just the repair of it is, for some people, it's a daunting task. For some people, it's that price just seems too high, but also the idea of somebody tripping over the bricks in front of their house because they've been displaced by the roots. That's a scary thought. So it's an intimidating process for a lot of people. So this isn't an anti-tree thing by any means. This is tree canopy, love it. But this is just more so as to touch on the people that are having those issues financially in front of, their homes, or worried about litigation that might come, somebody hurting themselves on some brickwork or
Right.
anything like that.
Totally understood. Okay, so we'll get notification out to the community at least 2 weeks prior to a community meeting. And we'll continue to utilize the methods that we have. Let's see. There is another, let's see, that's it. And then Mr. Tompkins had said 1300 block of Sheffield Street is where the sinkhole is located. Just for direct reference for you. Okay, very good. Well, unless there is anything else from the councilman's office, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening, for sharing your time, and for getting an update. Please be on the lookout for communication so that we can connect on the oral, a little more about the Scholar House, a little more with Elite Medical, and additional updates from our political strength here in the community. So a good night to everyone. You are appreciated. Peace and stay well.